And we are back with another episode of the BAM Sports Media Podcast. Man, we are so excited to be here with you guys tonight. We're not going to hold you guys long tonight. Tonight's episode, we're going to give you something brief. We're going to give a quick reaction to the new college football playoff rankings. And we're going to talk a little bit about the upsets. But let's go ahead with the intro. I'm your co-host, BJ.
And also your co-host Malcolm Maniac Bugs. Glad to be here again on the Bam Media Sports Pod. Getting ready to give y'all a brief show, but also just something that is, I would say, pivotal that we deliver to you all as far as the recent reaction to the college football ranking and elaborate on our biggest upsets from college football in this past weekend going into rivalry week. So to start with it, I think I'll go ahead and just go over the biggest upset that was for me. There were a multitude of upsets that took place this past week. We'll elaborate on his biggest upset. Obviously, everybody knows the Alabama-Oklahoma game was maybe the most surprising. The biggest upset for me, though, would have to be Kansas beating Colorado, simply because of the, I would say, awards that were riding on Colorado, finishing 10-2, finishing as a Big 12 championship game participant, and also being a Big 12 champion in order to secure a spot in the college football playoff. Uh, Also, I think that was the biggest upset because I think Coach Prime should be Coach of the Year, and with him losing that game, or with them losing that game, I think it puts a slight blemish and maybe uh, a, I would say, ammunition for an argument that someone else should be Coach of the Year. But I do think that Coach Prime is definitely the top Coach of the Year candidate. But losing that game to Kansas, a team that was unranked, a team that was um, 4-6 to start that game, 4-6 going into this week. That this wasn't a good look, obviously, for the Colorado Buffaloes. Another reason why I think that was big is because not only does that hurt Coach Prime being able to secure a Coach of the Year award, a postseason award, in which I think he rightfully deserves, but it also hurts the chances of Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders winning the Heisman. And everybody knows that Travis Hunter is the number one college football athlete that is being presumed to win the Heisman. I also think that the Heisman is an award that is looked upon as a award that is given to the most outstanding college football player, and the record has to do with that award being given out. Um, who would you say would be your biggest upset from this past weekend? A weekend that was full of upsets, might I
Oh man, I got too many of them actually. Uh, number one, definitely gonna go Bama, Oklahoma for me. For a lot of reasons. I will say Colorado, Kansas was a close one to my number one upset, but due to the fact that Kansas had just beat two ranked opponents prior to them playing Colorado, I feel like they kind of was hitting their groove. So I didn't expect, a blowout by Colorado. I kind of expected a tight game. Now I did not expect, that running back to be able to go in there and, pretty much have his way against Colorado. That's one thing I did not expect. But pretty much the Bama game, man. Bama, Oklahoma, definitely a disappointment. We started off terribly. Started off slow, dropped passes. Ryan Williams dropped a good pass by Jalen Milroe. CJ Dupree, another guy, dropped a terrible, easy pass from Jalen Milroe in one of those first couple of drives. I think we just got started off in the wrong foot, man. When you playing a team like Oklahoma, fighting for a bowl game, they playing at home. It's senior night. They got one of the best linebackers in the country, one of the best safeties in the country. So, they leaning on their defense. What we didn't think, or I guess expect, which I don't know how, if we had to watch film. Obviously they got a new coordinator a few weeks ago in the middle of the season on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we didn't expect them to come out with Vanderbilt offense style as far as the triple option, running the quarterback real heavy, not really passing the ball a lot. I don't think we expected that from Jackson Arnold, honestly. But we adjusted well, and I liked it from the defensive side of the ball. Offense just couldn't get it going. We had a few penalties that caused some touchdowns to be brought back. Well, one touchdown to be brought back. And then, the Ryan Williams stepped out of bounds on the first touchdown in the first drive. I think if he had scored that touchdown, I think it would have been a different game. But I just think overall, those two picks in to start the second half, those were detrimental to the comeback.
And not meaning to cut you off, but giving you something to add to your point with this question. Do you think that the overall development of Jalen Milroe has tarnished the opportunity for the Alabama Crimson Tide to make the college football playoff this year? And secondly, I remember speaking with you briefly yesterday about this, so I have to ask, but has his development progressed or regressed in this new offensive system for him this year?
Okay, so to answer your first question, I do think Jalen Milroe will. I don't want to solely put it on him, but at this point, we gotta look at him as the reason for why we might not have success in first year under Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan's offense. I don't think he has progressed all in all. I think maybe as a runner, obviously we always knew he was ultra talented, crazy athlete. And I think his legs were more dynamic this year because they opened up the playbook for him to be more dynamic with his legs. But in a sense, I think he regressed as a quarterback this year from a passing perspective. I was expecting him to, and this is just my opinion, I was expecting him to learn how to read through progressions. I have seen in a couple of games where he might do it once or twice, here or there for a drive or two, but consistent wise, week in, week out, I haven't seen him, constantly read through his progressions. I will also say he still doesn't look comfortable in the pocket to me. I don't know if this is a trust factor with the O-line. O-line has did a decent enough job to me where I feel like you should be able to be comfortable in the pocket. I just don't think he's moving around in the pocket well to be a true quarterback at the next level. It's going to be tough to see where he what his decision is at the end of this season. We definitely could have done, more with him, but I think he has allowed the offense to not reach their full capacity from a Kalen DeBoer standpoint. Because you just look at the offenses he's had. I think I seen something the other day where he might have had, like his previous quarterbacks have had over 30-some touchdown passes and under 10 interceptions, like 30-some touchdowns with like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 interceptions. So in the season, so Jalen Milroe is the only one with 15 tutties and 9 interceptions. So all in all, man, definitely, I feel like he tried to get better. I do think he tried to get better. I think he has a great work ethic, but it didn't translate to the field.
All right, man. Just to give some key stats, just to support some of the points you made, which I think are very, very in depth when you talk about explaining or analyzing the quarterback play of Jalen Milroe. Last year I'll say the 2 years that Michael Penix was under Kalen DeBoer. So the last 2 years at Washington, Michael Penix had 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in 2022. And in 2023, Michael Penix had 36 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. And going into Jalen Milroe's this year's stats, I would say 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in the air, which are, I would say, very, very drastically down when you compare them to the production that you see from Michael Penix the last 2 years at Washington.
Go back and
even hold on, I'm gonna let you elaborate. But even to go further unto that point to support your stance in 2023, Jalen Milroe had 187 completions out of 284 attempts, leaving him at 65.8 completion percentage. And he had a number of 23 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So to support your point earlier when I asked the question about Jalen Milroe's progression or regression, if you look at those statistics alone, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, with what he has now is currently 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, you can see that discrepancy. You can see the difference. So go ahead, what you was about to say.
Nah, you said it. I was finna hit. You ain't even got to compare him to Michael Penix. You can just compare him to himself last year. His numbers are down. We got one more game left in the regular season. Like, he literally, since the Vanderbilt game, has only scored. So he's rushed for 7 touchdowns. He did 4 in the LSU game alone. He had, I think, maybe like 220 something plus yards rushing, and in the last 6 games, 185 came against LSU. So the past few games, he hasn't scored many passing touchdowns. He hadn't gotten many yards, and he's supposed to be a stat stuffer. He's an athlete. He's dynamic. We got him on the field to make a ton of plays. If he's not making plays, he's not good for this offense. He's just going to drag the offense down, and obviously that's what we're seeing. And quite frankly, this can be for another episode. Possibly we can do something later in the week before the Iron Bowl, but I think we might lose the Iron Bowl. If Auburn come out playing great defense, it's the same thing. Me and my brother talk about this all the time. When Jalen Milroe plays a tough defense, a tough front seven that can get pressure on him, he will turn the ball over. And we not benching him. The boy done made that frank. He doesn't say it. He ain't said it, but he pretty much done said it because he ain't did it. But if Ty Simpson hadn't touched the field yet in a starting capacity, he won't this year. But if Jalen Milroe go out there and do what I think he's going to do, we possibly could very well finish this season 8-4. And Tuscaloosa is going to be on fire. I ain't gonna lie to you. Them people gonna go crazy. You know how they get down in T-Town, man. Them people gonna go crazy. We finna lose 4 games in one season, man.
I would say that is the Saban effect, simply because of Nick having such a successful tenure. I also believe that if people are going to be in comparison, then they have to somewhat, and the reason I say somewhat, give, I would say, a little bit of leeway or grace to Coach DeBoer, simply because Nick's first season, and yes, it is different. And I think it's mostly different because Saban actually inherited a program which was in bad shape. DeBoer did not inherit a program that was in bad shape at all. So I think that's where most people would draw their stances on whether or not he did a good enough job, whether or not the program is in its best shape as it could possibly be currently.
Yeah.
But to support my stance, Nick didn't. I think Nick went. Did Nick go 7-5 his first year?
7-6.
7-6 his first year. So for people to draw those conclusions out of the season so far, I think it is somewhat fine line. I think it's a gray area, to be honest, just simply because I think it's tough for Kalen DeBoer to make that decision to bench Jalen Milroe, to go to another guy when you see the leadership factor, when you understand how much this guy means to the team, means to the program from a captain standpoint, but also a familiarity standpoint, already having some success under Saban last year. I think that is the biggest hurdle. I think that's the biggest hurdle for DeBoer to get over in order to pull him off the field. Now, I think it's obvious for some people to say that, he doesn't fit your offense when you talk about Tommy Reed style or Bill O'Brien style or now DeBoer style or Sheridan style. Yes, you're going to automatically say he doesn't fit your offense. So why does that make it so hard for you to make that change? Well, we've only seen so many people do that. And when I mean so many, a very small amount. As in Nick Saban is one of one because he was able to do that in a championship game situation. And I'm talking about national championship game and SEC championship game, like two different scenarios, putting quarterbacks in and not missing a beat and looking like the savior because you made that decision. So I think that is very tough. With my position of being a coach for so many years, I think that is very, very, very hard to handle as far as making that decision and whether or not you feel like you're going to lose the team, whether or not you feel like you're going to limit the team, or whether or not you feel like you are limiting the team by not making that decision. So I think that's very, very hard for this coach DeBoer to do.
Definitely.
Now going on, in which I enjoyed those points. You made some great key points. But I will elaborate right here on our second and last topic for tonight. The rankings. Now, obviously, Ole Miss lost to Florida. So that was another big upset that we talk about that happened this past weekend. Colorado lost to Kansas. Bama lost to Oklahoma. And I think it was one more team that lost this past week.
BYU lost.
BYU, correct. BYU lost their home game
to Arizona State.
Correct. All right. And now I'm looking at the current college football top 25 rankings, which were released tonight. Oregon still sits at the top, was being undefeated in the Big Ten. Ohio State with a strong showing against Indiana, in which was somewhat predicted. When you talk about Indiana not having a strength schedule that had a great number of ranked opponents or just even formidable opponents for them to add to their resume as far as being in the college football playoff. Texas, number 3, with only one loss to Georgia. Penn State, 4, with only one loss to Ohio State. Notre Dame at 5, with that loss to, was it Louisville earlier in the season? Or was it NIU? NIU. That's who it was. Yeah. Northern Illinois. That's who it was. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty high ranking for them. And obviously, the big thing about Notre Dame is that they are independent. So they don't have a conference championship game. So therefore, they win their last game of the year, then their resume is their resume. That's so correct. Which do you think that plays a part in being fair or not, as far as getting selected to be in the playoff?
Not really. Handle business in the regular season and live and die with the result. I mean, that's all you can do.
Correct. Miami right behind them at 6, which is probably going to be the ACC champion. My prediction. Georgia sitting at so 2 straight SEC teams at 7 and 8. Georgia at 7, Tennessee at 8. Both of them with 2 losses. SMU at 9 with only 1 loss, who could possibly play in the ACC championship game and take out Miami for that automatic bid into the playoff. SMU at 9. Indiana drops to 10 after that game between them and Ohio State, in which I think them being beat by 21 plus was something that was going to happen. But I also think that it's something that they could possibly learn from. And if they are awarded a spot into the college football playoff, maybe that is something that could hinge their season or prepare their season, depending on their matchup. All right. Boise State at 11, at 10 and 1. Clemson at 9 and 2, rounding out the top 12. And on the outside looking in is that script A, Alabama Crimson Tide, sitting at 8 and 3, who controlled their own destiny before losing to Oklahoma this past weekend. Ole Miss, who also lost this past weekend and had a chance to control their own destiny as far as getting to the playoff, lost this past weekend to Florida. South Carolina at 15 at 8 and 3. Arizona State, who had a big win this past weekend, beating BYU at 9 and 2 at 16. Tulane 17. Iowa State at 18. BYU drops to 19, in which all 4 of those teams I just mentioned are 9 and 2. Texas A&M, that's who had another upsetting loss that I was meant to mention. They lost to Auburn this past weekend, so they now sit at 8 and 3. But they have a chance to play Texas this weekend and possibly still get into the SEC championship game. So we're staying tuned for that matchup. Missouri sitting at 8 and 3 at 21. UNLV 22. Illinois 23. Kansas State 24. And Colorado drops down to 25. So looking at that top 25 ranking, how do you feel about where your team currently sits? And do you think that it is fair where they currently sit?
So first and foremost, I don't like how much they dropped Colorado. I'm gonna speak on that first. Just because of the fact that obviously they were upset, but just to speak on the fact that, like I said, Kansas had just beat 2 previous ranked teams, one on the road as well. So that's a hot team right now. So I don't think they should have dropped to 25, more so 20, 21, 22, or somewhere around there. I think they deserve a little more credit. My team, Bama, of course. Honestly, man, playoff committee, SEC bias. I'm gonna be the first to say it, man. It's SEC bias. Bama don't deserve to be on number 13. Just being frank with you. We done lost 2 games. 2 to unranked teams. You know, Saban was 119 and 1. And he just lost to the first unranked team a couple years ago to A&M on the road. But it was an SEC team. Bro, we losing to 5-5 teams. We lost to a team who was 1-5 in the SEC. Their only other win was Auburn. That don't look good. That don't bode well for Bama fans, man. That don't show any hope, honestly. And if you see that Jalen Milroe has not progressed week in and week out, and if you shut down the run, we don't have an answer. Why would you put us at 13? I mean, I would love to get in the playoffs just to say we got in the playoffs. Hey, win 10 games and get in the playoffs. I love it. But at the end of the day, nah, man, when you in the playoffs to win a championship, don't put us in the playoffs just because of that script A. We know what it means, but just being honest, nah. And who to say we can't go in there and make some noise? You don't know what Bama. You don't know what you're gonna get. It's 50-50. You don't know if you're gonna get the Georgia Bama. You don't know if you're gonna get the Oklahoma Bama. You don't know who you're gonna get. So I think they more deserve enough to be at 18, 19, somewhere around there. But you can't lose to two unranked teams on the road in embarrassing. Well, Vandy won in embarrassing fashion, but Oklahoma was in embarrassing fashion. They had 11 players out, 11 starters out. 11. Your quarterback only threw the ball for 68 yards. Jalen Milroe, 11 for 26, 100. I forgot his total, but like 170 some, 140 some, or 170 some yards. That is unacceptable. 3 picks, 0 touchdowns. That's unacceptable, man. Especially after the games where you've lost to Tennessee, you lost to Vandy, and you threw 2 picks in both of those games as well. So that's what I'm saying. It's a trend with him. Like, I love him to death. I love the player he is, the person he is, the leader he is. But the quarterback version is just not. It's just not. He's not becoming the quarterback that Bama needs him to become in order to take them to the championship. If you realize this, he's the last quarterback to not go to a championship game. Bryce Young did. Jalen Milroe didn't. Out of his 2-year start, he didn't go to one championship game. One national championship game. He won an SEC championship, but national championship he did not get to it. So he lies the reason. I think I said on the episode in the past, maybe one of the first 2, we got to stop looking at the coordinators. It's not all on the coordinators. We got to look at him at some point. We hate to, because we don't want to, break him down. He's still a young adult, so we don't want to scrutinize him too much. But these guys making millions of dollars, man. You getting scrutinized now. Man, he's not getting no better, man. So Bama don't deserve to be at 13, to answer your question. And I don't think Colorado deserves to drop to 25. The rest of the rankings, it'll play itself out. We still got one more week left of regular season football. Rivalry week gonna be a crazy week. And we got championship week. So I think it's gonna be some teams probably still dropping their top 12. I think Clemson gonna lose Saturday to South Carolina. Tennessee might slip up against Vandy on the road. We don't know. And Notre Dame got to play USC, where they only favored to win by 7. So it's a couple games that's going to be iffy with the Texas and Texas A&M matchup as well. So, man, we got a lot of games that could get, can get a little crazy. Bama still could very well sneak into that, that playoff ranking. But me personally, I don't know if I want to see that.
Hey, man, I understand. Man. You feel like you suffered enough as a fan this year.
Hey.
Hey, man. Hey, like I said, it is great to embark on this journey. I think that rivalry week is going to be a great week for setting the tone for the end of the regular season, but it can also be a surprising week, just like this past week with 4 and 5 different big upsets. So going into the last week of the regular season, we expect college football to continue to be exciting, thrilling. The parity in college football is something that I've stressed from the beginning of our show series, and I think that is starting to show more and more into fruition here at the end of the year. And I think that is not only great for college football when it comes to the excitement factor, the entertainment factor, but also the monetary value that is also being shown through revenue sharing, through TV rights deals, through ticket sales, paraphernalia sales, all these different things. So such a great time for college football right now. And like I said, what better way to express ourselves and express our knowledge through giving it back through this podcast. So my boy B, I appreciate you. You got on again. This has been another episode of the BAM Media Sports Pod. Look for more content for us. Y'all please continue to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And once again, peace.